Hello and welcome back to the Portfolio Podcast. This episode is all about Persimmon. Now, these guys make houses, but are they going to make you a profit? So Persimmon make homes all across the country, but here on TPP we're going to delve into their stock and find out if they're a good investment for you. So first, let's look at about the business. So according to them, on their investor reports and their website, they are one of the leading UK household builders. Now, yes, they're in the same sort of league as people like Taylor Wimpey, who are a very good house builder themselves. But there's pros and cons to Persimmon that we're going to talk about in this video. At the moment, they produce houses at 17% lower than the average house cost in the UK. Now, that's quite a lot of saving, a lot lower than all these other massive house builders in the country. But is there a reason for that? I couldn't find one myself. I couldn't find a reason why their prices were lower.
Which report was that from?
That was from their investors' half one of 2021 investor report presentation. Sorry.
So that's actually a fairly current figure as well, with the 17%.
Yes,
lower.
it is.
So that's quite interesting.
Yeah. But what I think is the reason for that is because they have their own brick manufacturing company, and they make around 80 million bricks a year. Now that's a lot of bricks and a lot of houses, right? So that is a massive cost saving as long as they're efficient in their production of them. They also say they have industry-leading returns, stating basically that their profit margins are substantially higher than other house builders in the UK, which is a bit of a big thing to claim, really.
I suppose it's quite interesting, really, because obviously with all the shortages and everything else going on like that, having such a tight control over one of your primary suppliers, because obviously you need bricks to build houses in the UK. We don't build prefab stuff like in the States. I suppose that's probably where a lot of that cost saving is coming from, because having such a tight control over your supply chain is going to be really beneficial at this current time.
Something that I did look at as well that's not in the presentation that I was just going to touch on was that they have really big ties to certain roof tile manufacturers. So they get massive discounts on their roof tiles because they order millions of them a year. And just having those really big connections to these huge manufacturers is going to bring their costs down a lot, because these massive orders are bringing in massive savings.
I suppose it's definitely going to help them. I mean, I know the big one at the moment is there's a huge shortage in sand, which sounds weird. I remember watching a Vox documentary on it a little while back. It's like, how's there a shortage of sand? It has to be the right type of sand, because you have to have fairly not
it has
round
to be
sand.
clay. Yeah, it's clay sand, isn't it? It's like it's like the red brick sand, and then you've got your sharp sand, and it's all very different.
Yeah, exactly. So they seemed, if that 17% is current, I don't know whether that's happened over the last few years or whether it's just generic to this year as a headline figure, but that's a big number.
Yeah, I couldn't find anything about when that figure's been taken from, but it was in their half one of 2021 report. So my assumption is it's based on current prices of houses, and that's a big thing to state, especially with the house prices rocketing recently.
Yeah, exactly. So potentially they could have good control over their supply chain, which is going to be a massive pro for the current status, or the current market conditions anyway.
Indeed. So the pros of this company, there is actually quite a few that are, I'd say, smallish to medium pros. And you'll see why I say that when we get to the cons section. Okay? But first up, so their financial report says they have increased their new home legal completions rate by 51% year on year for the first half of the tax year, which is a big increase that, yes, has been helped by the downfall of house sales due to COVID, but even so, 51% uptake takes them past where they were pre-COVID.
What does new home legal completions actually mean? Is that sort of paperwork signed off over to customer?
Yeah, so that's your solicitor signing the paperwork. You've agreed to pay with your mortgage or cash or whatever, and the keys are on the way to you, kind of thing. That's classed as a legal completion, yeah. But when it comes to new builds, it is, yeah. But when it comes to new builds, there's also other paperwork. So there's a thing called buying off plan, which means you buy the house before it's built. You buy it literally off a paper plan. Now, in that
Yeah,
case,
yeah.
there's more legal paperwork to do, such as you have to take your, you can take a surveyor. They don't like it, but you can, and you should. If anyone else here is out there is watching Buying Off Plan, take a building surveyor, your own one, not theirs, supplied by them, because they will try and get that to happen with every new build company in the country. And also take your solicitor if you need to, or take pictures for your solicitor, and then
Yeah.
only then do you sign that paperwork to say I'm happy with the state of the build. And that the reason I'm saying this will become more apparent in the cons section.
Do you
So
reckon that 51% increase is from sort of a backlog from COVID, where obviously they might not have been able to build as many houses due to social restrictions, or do you think it's more they've
there is
genuinely
that.
increased the number
There
of
is
properties
that,
they
but
finished?
also if you look at their 2020 builds and the first half of 2021 would have been like some remnants of that plus the extra land they've already bought. They had a lot of completions in that time. According to their financial reports, it was over 14,000 plots were taken through legal completion
2020.
within that 18-month period.
Yeah.
So, it's quite a lot. And the majority of that was near the back end of it because people weren't viewing houses during the
Yeah.
lockdown. That's what
Okay.
my opinion is based on the numbers that I've seen. It may not be 100% but accurate, but it appears that way. A 65% increase in pre-tax profit, which is now nearly at just under, I think it was 474 million, somewhere around there. That was their pre-tax profit, which has gone up by around 50 million year on year, half and half, sorry, 2020 half one to 2021 half one. They've mitigated the inflation prices by putting it on the house price. Well, what else are they going to do? But
Question is they have to do it one way or the other.
Exactly.
It's not like a sort of packet Haribo where you can reduce the size of it gradually
Take
and charge
a
the same
Haribo
price,
out,
and
yeah.
then introduce your new 50% larger packet, even though it's the same size as the old packet, and charge more for it. You can't do that.
Look at this new house. We've taken out all the windows.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to go in the bathroom in the garden.
Yeah, windows are now optional extras.
Yeah, and like they've also done cost reduction in their products. They've had these better bonds, better relationships with these manufacturers to get products a little bit cheaper on discounts, and they've said that they're doing all of this without affecting quality negatively, but in fact affecting it positively. So that's nice to hear. It's just whether they follow through with that and they stick to their quality plans.
Yep, customer has the voice at the end of the day. They're the ones receiving.
Exactly. So they have a healthy liquidity, so like cash on hand. I believe that includes credit lines. So there will be some. Basically, a credit line's a bit like having an overdraft in a very weird way. It's very similar.
It's the
in terms
ability
of
to
a
be able to
person.
take on debt. They can go to the
Yeah.
bank knowing that the bank will already approve them £400 million or whatever it is.
It's like having a pre-approved overdraft, and that's the best way I can describe it. But their liquidity is now 500 million more than it was last year. And yes, COVID again would have probably affected how much cash they could access, but at least now they've got the ability to buy more land. They have paid quite a few special dividends over the last 3 or 4 years, and it seems to be when they hit their financial targets earlier than they thought they would, or they exceed their financial targets and they pay a little bit out.
I know there were some headlines where they were paying some out because of the Help to Buy scheme. So house builders are absolutely rinsing the government for money because of the Help to Buy schemes coming in, and that inflating house prices and generally having a positive impact on the market. And they were making money hand over fist, and they were paying it out to customers. Because I looked at house builders a couple of years ago, and it's one of the reasons I decided not to invest at the time, because the Help to Buy stuff was coming to the end at the time, and it was like, right, well, that cash cow's disappearing, so is it going to have a major impact on them?
See, the nice thing is now that we're starting to see more of these 5% mortgages from the government's new scheme. So I think that's going to positively impact the housing market, because as much as I personally would never go for a 5% mortgage, because at the end of the day, if the house price drops, you're going to have no equity or even negative equity. My recommendation is to always have a 10% deposit minimum. But people aren't always going to swing that way. Some people need to get out of their houses. Some people need to get a house, you know. And a 5% mortgage is going to help them get there at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So it's not a bad thing. It's just not something that I would personally do as someone that's quite money conscious.
Yeah.
You know. Their dividend currently, according to Dividend Max, they are 100% guessing that the dividend's going to be 235 pence per share over the course of 2 instalments. It seems to be that the interim one is 110 pence, and then the rest is at the final. So 2 nice, fairly good dividends, because this takes you to 8.7% dividend.
Do you think there's risk attached to that though? Because that is very high.
It is very high, and there's definitely risk attached to it, because at the end of the day, well, you'll see this in the next section of this slide pack. Persimmon don't just make houses. I know, it's mad. They don't. Persimmon houses don't make just houses. Their whole group brought in 1.84 billion in revenue, and that is up by a fair chunk from 2020 half one. So this is just the half still. We're just comparing half to half. It's about I think it's like 550 million difference between the two in total group revenue, which is a hell of a lot of money difference to jump. Obviously, COVID did have an effect, and they would have lost potential revenue. But that bounce back, that's pretty impressive in my opinion.
Oh, you look at that as what, 650 million difference, and then a 500 million increase in profit. So pretty much all of that increase in revenue led to a massive increase in profit.
Massive.
So where you mentioned they were doing efficiency saving, that's clearly showing in their figures.
Now we're going to move on to the bit that I'm a bit reluctant to talk about in too much negativity, because I do like the company, and they are making a hell of a lot of houses, and they are making houses at a cheaper rate than a lot of the other house creators. But there's only one con I need to talk about, and that is their quality. Trustpilot has over 42%. In total, there's about 1,800 reviews that have been classed as trustworthy. 42% were 5-star reviews, which is absolutely great, but they have 50% 1-star reviews, and I searched through these posts for hours, trying to find the ones that either didn't completely destroy the company's image, or like were more not against their customer service side, because there was a few against how their customer service was handled that I didn't think really related too much to how the stock price is going to be affected on reviews, if you know what I mean. So yeah, I mean, customer service, a lot of companies have bad customer service. Things like cancelled meetings at the last minute, or just not turning up to reviews with new owners and stuff. Things happen.
What you say about sifting through reviews, though, you are absolutely right, though, because when trying to get net promoter scores for any company is a pain, because some people, you make one wrong thing, such as, I've just bought a new car and there was a sticker left on the seat. It isn't really a problem because you just peel the sticker off, but they give you a 1-star review. It's kind of overinflated, if you know what I mean. So you're absolutely right. You do have to sift through and find the genuine reviews, and generally I think you find them in the 4, 3, 2-star area rather than the extremes.
For sure. What I did in the 1-star review sections, I went through pages upon pages of them to find the ones that were actually related to. I wanted to pick some good ones for you that had a bit of comedic factors, but were also like relevant, because there are people that would give a 1-star review for something that is severely wrong, and you know their view should be heard, not just cast aside because they're making a scene. Because some of them aren't making a scene, and you'll see that in the next section. If you go to the next section, big headline, shocking, but there's a little bit about the rude and dismissive customer service and all this sort of thing. But overall, her whole post is about that buying a new build scheme to get you on the property ladder, but then you're buying a house and receiving a subpar product. For example, unleveled kitchen. It's not on having an unlevel kitchen. It should be perfect when you get into your house. And in my opinion, if your house isn't perfect, you should complain. But there's a certain
what they mean
level.
by unleveled.
Yeah,
You put a can
yeah.
of soup on the side and it rolls off the table, or is
Well,
it just sort of?
exactly, exactly. But this is the only one that I put in that was really focused on the customer service section. It says the so-called customer care received after consisted of blaming me for their mistakes.
It's
But
weird seeing these comments because I do know a couple of people that have bought houses from Persimmon and they sort of echo similar things about build quality. I
yeah,
think I had a friend and she was talking about that they'd used a certain type of fixings to mount the plasterboard and they'd actually pulled away from the fixings and actually popped through the plaster, so all the fixings were showing through the plaster. And then when she tried to complain about it, it took them like 3-4 months to actually come around, have a look, accept that they'd done something wrong, and
yeah,
then finally get somebody in to reboard and replaster the place after they'd already moved in.
that's
So
brilliant.
it's you do get first-hand experiences like that, and
Yeah,
other ones about fuse boxes being mounted in stupid places
yeah.
so the door can smash into them and all sorts of stuff like this. It's
Mm.
there is, I think there is a genuine issue here.
There is definitely a quality. I know many people that have had issues with them, and I know people from other building companies that I won't name that may have had similar issues when they bought their house from that company, and that was the reason they decided not to work for them. Basically, this guy's talking about that they're cowboy builders. I don't believe that. I believe people make mistakes, but if you're not going to cut a gutter to length properly, then there's something massively wrong. Your gutter should go from one end of the house to the other with end caps on one end and should attach to your downpipe. And it's not a hard thing to do. What I would assume would happen here is they've run out of guttering and they've gone, just chuck it up.
What I would be interested in seeing, really interested to see, is sort of under the hood a little bit, if we could actually get into Persimmon. Not that that's ever going to happen, but if we could get into Persimmon and have a look and go, right, well, is it just poor workmanship in terms of the labour they're hiring is not doing a good job? Or is it poor designs?
Yeah,
Are
or
the
is it
saying,
people
cut
not
this
supplying
length?
properly?
Yeah.
You know, is it the company
you
not
just
giving the workman the time to do it or the funds to do it? Are they saving this, making this 17% reduction in house price, and also this massive profit of each house that other companies apparently aren't getting? And are they doing that by sacrificing the quality?
Yeah. And then
And
how much are
taking
they
the
spending on
17%
warranty
away.
afterwards?
Well, yeah, that's the thing. The warranty bill is going to be huge, but how many of these cases have they just gotten away with? Next up, we have another 1-star review. This one, yeah, nice headline. Would not buy from them ever again. Water coming into their house because the cavity trays were not installed correctly. And yet they have this thing called a snag list. A snag list is the building, so like the site managers or a contractor that's brought in to survey the house will go around and say that everything is okay. But if you've got water coming to your house, that's a big problem. That's much bigger than the other two so far. And I would not be happy with that. I'd be straight on the phone to a lawyer. And finally, yeah, poor customer service. But what I'm interested in here is they talk about a major leak at their house. 6 days later, they're still waiting for a response. Now, if I had a housing company that was trying to get a good image, within 6 days I'd have the leak fixed. That's how you'd need to operate, surely. Because if your customers are upset, all they're going to do is write a 1-star review on Trustpilot and try and convince other people not to buy off you.
On that point, though, what I'm interested to hear your opinion on is, obviously, at the moment there's a huge housing shortage inside the UK. We're not building enough housing to house the populace, and it's part of the reason for the huge growth in housing prices. Do you think that enough of this negative quality issue is going to have a massive impact on Persimmon?
No, I don't. I think that the amount of houses they are building, they're going to get a lot of detractor net promoter scores, like detractor scores. And I don't think that their warranty bill on those, as we can see on Trustpilot, 50%, is going to massively affect their apparent extreme profits that they're receiving from each house.
Yeah, I think you're right there. I don't think it's going to be bad enough to warrant people going, right, okay, well, it is 17% cheaper. I can deal with a few quality issues to be able to actually buy myself a house, because we're so short.
Bearing in mind the first time buyer market, they can't afford the first time buyer houses, so we're having to use things like 50% schemes, buy the 5% deposits. But anyway, onto the news. Persimmon told to fix back to front Colchester flats. So I read this and I had a bit of a giggle to myself, if I'm honest. They put the balconies and the windows and the doors on the wrong side of the flats, and they were ordered by Colchester Council to put them on the correct side. They got slammed about it in the news, in the local papers up there, apparently. And Persimmon's response was, "Yeah, we realised."
Again, how is that? Is that shoddy build work? Somebody have the build plan upside down, or is that the build plan was fundamentally? Wow.
All I can imagine is the build manager for the site coordinator was sitting there on his desk with the plans upside down, wondering what all of these strange symbols
Sitting there
turn
scratching
upside
his
down.
head. Yeah.
Words.
Yeah. Blimey.
But yeah, it's stupid. Persimmon Homes branded shambolic by Bridgend councillor. I don't even need to read the article to like understand after we've seen those reviews, because if it's anything like those reviews, then yeah, that's pretty shambolic. Now, whatever those 42% that had the good, the 5-star reviews we're going through is rare, it seems. The last bit of news, all of them, as you can see, from BBC News, because the headlines are the funniest, if I'm honest. A lot of different news article writers had the similar headlines, but I found these ones to be the funniest. Builder Persimmon lacks minimum house standards, report finds. Minimum house standards. Is that not just walls, roof, plumbing, heating, electric, gas, and rooms that you can fit a single bed in? Is that not classed as a minimum house standard?
They're just building the front of the house and you walk in and there's no back end to it at all.
This is like those fake houses they put up around the train stations for the World War. Yeah. It's like one of them.
When you were reading through the report,
crazy.
Was there any hint at Persimmon actually addressing these quality issues or doing stuff to fundamentally change the way they operate to try and resolve them, or did it just sort of fall to the wayside?
They continuously mentioned they were going to improve quality, and continuously mentioned that it was essential for their business. But you know how when we talk about saying something corporate and actually having a strategic plan, they were saying something corporate.
There was no underlying.
There was no plan.
Quality audits, etc., and nothing like that. Right.
Okay, I read through the presentation and the financial report, and I couldn't see anything about improving quality in an actual strategic way. Just mentioning in the words, "We're going to improve quality." Great. Yeah. Every car manufacturer on the planet's been saying that for the last 20 years. But there was no way forward. But in the forward look, I was looking at stuff that was a bit more. So this half of this year, realistically, so maybe not quite so forward, maybe one step back, 8 steps forward kind of thing, and also all the next year's stuff. But the company seemed to have acquired 14,600 acres of land, which amounts to something stupid like 8,000 housing plots that are currently in development. It was just over, I think it was 6,000 that were in the process of local council sign off and were being signed off, and then there was a few more that were waiting on legal completion.
So they've actually bought plots that were already under development. Is what you're saying?
No. As in the last quarter, they began their creation.
Okay, I've got you.
Which won't be then finished for a year or so. So people can start buying off plan now. This is spread out though, proper spread out. There's 100 acres there, 10 acres there. I think from looking at the map, there was about 7 or 8 locations that would be ready at the end of 2022 / start of 2023, and there was about 13, 15 locations that were going to be ready within the next 18 months.
Right, gotcha.
And it's quite quick, to be fair, for the amount of houses they're planning on building. They're expecting by the end of this year to have just over 11,000 houses with legal completion.
Gotcha. Right. Okay,
which makes up, it is a lot of money. It's a lot of money coming in, which is the one reason that I'm actually, as much as the quality is poor, they've said they're going to improve it. They haven't told us how they're going to improve it, but they have said they are. But from what I can see, they've said that for a number of years now. They're expecting a 10% growth in the legal completions, but also a 10% reduction in the half two of 2021 revenue. Now, that bit made no sense to me. Their revenue for second half of this year is going to be lower than the second half of last year. The only thing that I can think of that would affect that is because COVID first lockdown ended, and people went, you know what I've done over the last 6 months is save a crap ton of money. I'm going to go buy a house. That's the only thing I can think of that would affect 2020 second half in a positive way, and potentially shine a negative light on this year's 2021 half two.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I don't know whether they include sort of investment figures. Maybe they've got some completions going through for buying new plots of land, stuff like that, which could have a knock-on effect to their revenue, which should be a good thing rather than the bad thing. But that is very interesting, the fact that it's 10% more sign-offs but lower expected revenue.
Yeah, but that's 10% growth in legal completions. But they've actually got about 2,000 less plots ready for sale or during in completion phases now for this year.
Right. Okay.
So that's 3,000 less houses to sell, which means they're either increasing their profits, reducing their costs, or they're doing something weird with the books. Definitely requires individuals out there, all of you lot, to comment in the section below and maybe shed some insight if you've, tell us about if you've bought a persimmon house. If you've bought a persimmon house and you've had quality issues, or you think they're amazing, let us know. Give us a star rating, We want to see it. Because that would be awesome to see real world, you guys out there, what you think of persimmon homes, because it might actually influence how I invest. And I am still interested in persimmon. There is a lot more to go through because, as I'm saying, the numbers don't seem to make sense in my head. Do they make sense in yours from what I've explained, Ryan?
In some senses yes, in some senses no. That forward look statement's a bit iffy. I'd probably want to have a deeper dive into that. The warranty issues does worry me a little bit, and I have always sort of kept clear of the housing sector since the initial look. What I'm also would be wary of for anybody looking into property things, obviously inflation figures have come in very high. The Bank of England already suggested that if the inflation figures came in above target, they'd be looking to increase interest rates. Obviously, if interest rates go up, mortgages get more expensive, less people go buy housing pricing goes down, and therefore persimmon make less money. Now that's a forward look in that sense, but fundamentally the housing situation with the income is so dire for anybody trying to be a first time buyer that although it will have an impact if there is a sort of rise in interest rates and reduction in house prices, which is potentially on the cards, I don't think it will knock persimmon to the wayside. I don't think it will cause major issues. You'll just see a slight downtick, and maybe that's what that 8.7% dividend is already pricing in. You just don't know because it just seems really, really high. So
yeah, for sure. I'm, as I say there on that slide, I'm definitely going to wait to see if persimmon hit their end of H2 targets. I want to see their annual reports at the end of the tax year, and I want to see whether they hit their goals from half one and also 2020 and even 2019's annual reports to see if the targets they set for themselves they've hit. Because I haven't seen a solid strategy in their reports or presentations. If I can see the improvement and see that these targets are being met at the end of this half, then I'd be more inclined to invest in them, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one as well. Obviously, you have to look at how much of your portfolio is exposed to property, because if you're looking at buying a house, this is a great way of getting into property without being able to go out and buy an entire house. If you can't afford the 5% deposit, 10% deposit, 20% deposit, whatever you wanted to put down. But obviously, Liam, if you were to say, look at them buying a house in 3 or 4 years' time, would you consider getting rid of your housing exposure through stocks or not?
So that's different because I wouldn't be initially renting out my house. I might rent out a room, I might buy to sell, but I wouldn't be renting the house out, which would give around an 8 to 10% margin per year. This is going to give me an 8.7% dividend a year, which is the same pretty much as me renting a house out.
But even without renting a house out, you're still exposed by owning a property, aren't you? You still have an investment in the actual underlying property. And if you then have another 10% of your investment portfolio allocated to property stocks, your exposure to property is even greater.
Yeah. I would never massively put myself into the property market on stocks, but I am considering just putting a small amount in just to. In reality, I think if Persimmon do sort their quality issues, then their revenue will increase and hence their net profit. And if that happens, then I think we could also see some capital growth. But that 8.7% dividend is very appealing. So the current share price is down 18% on pre-COVID-19 levels, which is about 600 pence a share down. But today they've actually gone up by 138 pence a share, and I believe their share price currently sits at 2,660-ish pence a share, based on what if memory serves, based on what I saw a couple hours ago. But I think it's got real good scope for some growth. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I put a little GIF there to show you how to do it. I'm sure you've all done it before. Have a lovely week, and thank you very much for watching the Portfolio Podcast.
Yep.